Borussia Dortmund had a crazy season. They finished 5th in the Bundesliga, got to the Champions League final but lost to Real Madrid. And then their manager decided to quit, and they hired Nuri Sahin to replace him in his first ever managerial job, which to me could be a disaster for Dortmund. So I've decided to take over as the manager of Borussia Dortmund to create my own legacy. I'm going to build my own team at the club to define my era, while also implementing a new style of play at Dortmund, with the goal of dominating the Bundesliga and win the domestic double. But guys, this video won't end until Borussia Dortmund lift the Champions League. Now in real life, Dortmund say goodbye to legends Marco Reus and Mats Hummels this season, and we are also replicating that here by not renewing their contracts. Vincent Kompany, of course, is also in his first season at Bayern Munich, and previews see them as favourites ahead of the Invincibles of Leverkusen to win the league. And so player-wise, I've got a few options up my sleeve that I think bringing in will make us a far better team this season. With the first coming in from Barcelona being Eric Garcia, a very good ball-playing defender for £26 million. The other player is Marco Reus' replacement being Brahim Diaz. This guy from the other side of Spain at Real Madrid we have bought in for just £23 million. Finally, we are a little bit weak at the back in terms of fullback options, so I picked up Ben Johnson, who was just a free transfer. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to adopt a different style of play, and it's a style of play and a formation that I've really appreciated my friend Stinger using recently, and it's this. It's a 4-1-2-3, and yes, it looks absolutely crazy, but it will develop over time once we bring in the players that we want to bring in to create our legacy. Because as of right now, of course, we've got Fulkrug in the target forward role. It's a role that he is really good at because he's a bit of a beast. I dare say once we start changing the players around, it might not be a target forward, and he might even drop back into this position here. But for now, this is what it looks like, and it's been doing quite well. I mean, it's only the first round of the cup, but we did just win 13-0. You can already see the danger that it is causing for defenses, as they can't handle the amount of numbers that we are piling forward. Now, as you can see from this goal, we scored against Mainz in a 2-1 victory. We were also 2-0 up against Leverkusen before stupidly throwing away the lead and drawing the game, but we still picked up a 4-0 win, and at the start of the season we're looking rather promising. Of course, after Dortmund's average season last year, failing to win the Champions League, they are in the Europa League this year. And it isn't the European trophy we are aiming for, but it still would be a nice one to win. And by the end of the year, we are in a prime position to qualify for the league phase. In the Bundesliga, however, once we come up against Bayern Munich, they were simply way too strong for us this time round, and we picked up our first loss of the season. Vincent Kompany's men, despite going behind, managed to fight back, and they defeated us on the day in Munich 4-2. But despite beating us, Vincent Kompany didn't exactly look very safe in his job. Because with Leipzig running away with the Bundesliga so far and ourselves and Hoffenheim trying to cling on, Kompany's Bayern Munich are down in 6th place right now. Goals-wise, Daniel Malin is currently our top scorer, and he's managed to pick up 9 league goals in 12 games. However, it's January, and there's a lot of interest from the big spenders in Europe. And the inevitable happened, and we eventually sold him for £42 million for Real Madrid. We wasted no time in spending that, bringing in his replacement, although we did spend a little bit more than what we hoped. But Santiago Jimenez joins from Feyenoord. But I didn't mind too much because we then signed Fofana from Monaco on an end-of-contract deal, an incredible CDM for a free transfer. Jimenez wasted no time either, making an impact, and he scored on his debut against the league leaders Leipzig in a 2-1 win. But we still have a monumental task if we're to close the gap and catch up to them at the top of the table. In the Europa League, we eased through the top 8 into the round of 16, where we got a horrible tie against Chelsea. Also, I kind of forgot to mention how we got on in the DFB Pokal, probably because I tried to put it to the back of my mind. We lost 2-1 to Bochum in the second round, a team that we actually beat at the start of the season, about a month before this happened, 6-0. The first leg against Chelsea went better than what I thought, and we go into the home leg with a 2-2 draw. But with sloppy defending at the back from Schlotterbeck, in the second leg, Cole Palmer punished us from range, and Chelsea knocked us out 4-3 on aggregate. It is a completely different story in the Bundesliga, however, because we've been playing really well and have been unbeaten in the new year. Meanwhile, Leipzig have been good too, but also picking up silly draws and a loss to Bayern Munich, who for now are still supporting Vincent Kompany. Things might change for him because he is in 4th place in the Bundesliga. We'll have to check to see how he's doing in the cups, but we are doing so well that we're only 3 points behind Leipzig now, going into the remainder of the fixtures. And guess who we've got on the final day? Yeah, it's Leipzig at home. We absolutely battered Bayern in the home fixture in the league, but I was correct. They are in the quarterfinals of the Champions League and the semi-finals of the DFB Pokal. A loss to Stuttgart for us, and we dropped to 6 points behind Leipzig with 3 remaining. To have a chance of us actually winning the league on the final day, we would need them to either lose to St. Pauli or Heidenheim. So chances are very small. And they got a massive win against St. Pauli. However, against Heidenheim, they conceded a goal very early on and give us a glimmer of hope, because they failed to score at all, leaving it down to the final game of the season against us. So we just have to beat them to lift the Bundesliga, and we take the lead early from a corner. But almost immediately, Leipzig peg us back from a throw-in, and they are currently lifting the title once again. And on this day, our strike force consisted of Sebastian Haller, who you may remember had to take some time off due to cancer, but is back playing football now, as well as his new strike partner, Santiago Jimenez. And as fairy tales go, imagine the roar in the Dortmund stadium when Sebastian Haller is put through and scored to put Dortmund back into the lead. And the cheer of relief soon after, when still before half-time, Santiago Jimenez scores at the back post to make it 3-1. Leipzig did pull one back, but we won the game 3-2 and go on to lift the Bundesliga ahead of them just on goal difference with the exact same win-draw-loss ratio, while Bayern Munich and last season's champions Leverkusen sit 15 points behind us. And although Frankfurt knocked him out of the DFB Pokal semi-final, Kompany manages to keep hold of his job, probably because he has a shot at our ultimate goal of the Champions League. And so yeah, winning the league is absolutely fantastic, but we didn't manage to get the domestic double and dominate Germany, and of course, we're still nowhere near winning the Champions League yet, unlike Bayern Munich, who went on to lift the trophy in their own stadium thanks to a 93rd minute winner. And it was Leipzig who went on to lift the DFB Pokal and just missed out on the domestic double themselves. So there's a lot of work to be done, but this team has bags of potential going all the way. Hey, if you're enjoying us creating our own legacy here at Dortmund, make sure you are subscribed. We're en route to 150k now. Season 2. That started with a bombshell. Because Vincent Kompany, the little snake, has just activated Adeyemi's release clause, and there is a chance that he might be willing to stay. However, we've just got to offer him a deal to tempt it. But that didn't work, and he ended up making the classic switch from Borussia Dortmund to Bayern Munich. So to replace him, I picked up Gonzalo Ramos from PSG for just over £50 million, and this guy just screams a Dortmund type of player to me. The signings just kept coming through though, as Joe Neves turned down Liverpool to sign for us instead for £58 million. Making the opposite move to Adeyemi is Mazraoui, who joins us from Bayern Munich for just £10 million. Unfortunately, we had to sell our captain Emre Can, who kicked off after a first bid was rejected and eventually got his move to Saudi Arabia. Felix Mnecha moved to Bayer Leverkusen after only playing 8 games last season, and yet we still got £27 million for him. And that gave us enough to pick up a young Lenny Yoro for £60 million, but we've agreed to loan him back for the season to Lille. We are still way off from where we need to be, but I do think this team has improved from this summer going into season number 2. However, the results say otherwise, as Leipzig beat us comfortably in the Super Cup, and in the league in an early Bundesliga fixture too. Gonzalo Ramos scored on his Bundesliga debut against Bayern Munich of all teams, but they still held us to a 3-3 draw, so it's been a slow start, because that's actually no wins from our first 3 fixtures. However, things picked up for us much more as this season went on, thankfully. And by the new year, we were sat in 3rd place, just 6 points behind top of the league Bayern Munich, who had only lost 1 game so far. It was much better in the German Cup as well, as we got through the 2nd round this season, and even the 3rd round going into the quarterfinals, we've got Bayer Leverkusen to play. This time round, it was the Champions League where we were embarrassing ourselves instead, because we were knocked out of the league phase of the Champions League, only getting wins over Nice and Ajax, drawing to Chelsea and Bayern Munich, and losing 4 games, with 2 against sides we definitely should be beaten. Our Bundesliga form had definitely improved in the new year, and when Bayern Munich came to our stadium, we absolutely smashed them with 4 goals going in and without conceding a single goal ourselves. And we closed the gap at the top of the league to just 1 point after 19 games behind Bayern Munich, and Gonzalo Ramos is on 13 goals so far this season. We were just on fire domestically, and even put in a huge performance in the DFB Pokal against Leverkusen, where we knocked them out 4 goals to 0. And we breezed through the semi-final too with a 2-0 win against Wolfsburg. And just typically, the final, which is to be played at the end of the season, is against Bayern Munich, who are also not now top of the Bundesliga either, but there's so much that's gone on, I'm going to have to explain. You see, once again, Bayern Munich's form has been hampered by the fact that they're playing very late into the Champions League. In fact, they've just got a 3-3 draw with Liverpool in the first leg of the semi-final at Anfield. So you fancy their chances to make it back-to-back finals in that Champions League. Not only the fact that they beat Heidenheim to face us in the DFB Pokal final, which will happen at the end of the season too. But that's meant that they've picked up a couple of draws and losses in the league, including against Leverkusen and to Leipzig. And Augsburg in the start of February is another one. But it just seems like Vincent Kompany has really picked this team up out of the dirt. We were sitting top of the league ourselves until we went through a really rough patch where we drew against Werder Bremen and lost to both Eintracht Frankfurt and Wolfsburg. And now we're actually sat in second place behind Leipzig on the same points as Bayern Munich, just 2 points behind with 3 games to go. Which means although we can't win the Champions League yet, this season we are still on for the domestic double for now. That was until we lost to Augsburg 1-0 and completely killed our chances by drawing to Cologne. And somehow Kompany took Bayern Munich back to the top to lift the Bundesliga again. But how mental is this? Both Bayern Munich and Leipzig play each other in the final of the Champions League. For now though, it's time for the DFB Pokal final to try and stop them from winning the treble. We are without some big names such as João Neves, who's got a very serious cruciate injury, but I still have faith that we can pick up the win. After all, we can't trust that Leipzig will stop Vincent Kompany from winning a treble with Bayern Munich. And we had the perfect start too, as within 5 minutes, Moukoko was putting the ball in the Bayern net to give us the lead. But with Ben Sabani down injured, we crumbled at the back, and a minute later, Lee Kang-in bent in an equaliser. It stayed 1-1 until the second half when Gonzalo Ramos bagged the winner for Bayern Munich. And their quest for a treble is well and truly on the way, as they've only got to beat Leipzig in the final to complete it. Which Bayern Munich won 1-0 in the Champions League final. Vincent Kompany is making this a lot harder than what I thought he would. We still need to win both the domestic double and the Champions League to cement our legacy here at Dortmund, and Kompany's just done both in Munich. So it's time to look at what this squad needs in terms of changes, and we currently have £50 million to do any. Well, whatever Vincent Kompany is doing, Alphonso Davies isn't in favour either way, and is transfer listed for £51 million. And within days, we signed one of the best left backs in the world for half the price he is valued at from our biggest rivals. I've also made the decision to sell Julian Brandt for £56 million now that he is 31 years old to Saudi Arabia. We need another option at the back, and Mascara gives us that. He's only 22 and still can grow as a player as well. As well as another attacking option which Kenan Yildiz can bring us, even if he plays naturally as both a 10 and a striker, so he fits perfectly. I'm also very aware of a youngster coming through our academy who could be absolutely amazing. He's picked up a bit of an injury right now, but he's been bagging in goals non-stop, getting 41 for the under-19s just last year. With a few tactical tweaks to the instructions we are given, and the football has been beautiful to see at the start of the season. And that only continued into the first half of the season as we played really well. By the new year, we were top and lost only 2 games against the 2 big boys, but we have the 3 top scorers of the league, and look where Bayern are. Could this be the end of Vincent Kompany? Once again though, we failed to get past the 3rd round of the DFB Pokal, meaning the domestic double is off this season. The league phase of the Champions League went a lot better than last year, as not only did we qualify, we got into the top 8 and straight into the round of 16, which was really good until we got drawn against Real Madrid. And yeah, that did not go very well for us. But that allowed us to solely focus on the league, and we even picked up another win against Bayern Munich. Make no mistake though, with 7 games to go, we are doing really well and 7 points clear. This is not a bad season. And we just kept racking up the wins, like this 8-0 against Wolfsburg, going on to lift the Bundesliga title with a bit of ease, ahead of Leipzig by 7 points, only losing 3 games all season, and Bayern Munich having a really bad year, 17 points behind me, and out of every other competition as well this season by the quarterfinals. But next season though, we have to aim for that domestic double. To kick things off this summer, 3 players had bids come in from around the same time, and I was happy to accept all 3, with Ryerson, Sule and Ben Johnson potentially leaving to add money to our £60 million transfer kitty. And to replace all of them, I decided to sign just one right back in Jan Couto. It's going to be expensive, but I think will be worth it in the long run. Backup goalkeeper signed as our previous backup retired, but Cabell is still our number 1. And we've also signed Erkan Kirku from Benfica as a really good option for us in that attacking midfield position. And both Kirku and Jan Couto go straight into our best first 11 and improve this team really well. and we've only dropped 2 points at the start of the season to Leverkusen, but we actually salvaged the draw in the 96th minute, so all seems positive for now, and Bayern Munich is up next. But it's not Vincent Kompany's Bayern Munich that we're facing, and that's because after winning multiple Champions Leagues, they decided to sack him and replace him with Mikel Arteta. So the Spaniard now comes into the hot seat of Bayern Munich as our main rivals, while Vincent Kompany has moved to Arsenal. I know. And that move, by the way, was directly because of Arteta's move to Germany. But the new Munich man had nothing in his playbook for this first fixture against the reigning champions of the Bundesliga, as we beat them in their own stadium 3-1, stamping down our intent to win the domestic double. In the Champions League, however, we just scraped through in 22nd place after drawing 5 games and only winning 2. We've reached the quarter-finals of the DFB Pokal, and it's Freiburg for us, while both Leipzig and Bayern Munich have already been knocked out. We are running clear of the Bundesliga too, 9 points ahead and 14 ahead of Bayern Munich. Once again, an early exit in the Champions League though, as Feyenoord's second leg win sees them go through 5-3 on aggregate. But we have a different task on our hands this season that we've prioritised, because we've put ourselves through to the DFB Pokal semi-finals with this win over Freiburg. And that puts us against Heidenheim, but I genuinely don't think it mattered who we played at this point. We are in some hot form right now and scoring plenty of goals from our creative front 5. And a 4-1 win puts us into the DFB Pokal final for a showdown against Bayer Leverkusen. In the league, outside of a loss to Kaiserslautern, we've been on some good form and just 1 win away from lifting the Bundesliga once again, for which we saved possibly our best performance for, battering Augsburg 6-0. Ending the season as champions of the Bundesliga 8 points ahead of Leipzig, as Bayern end in 4th place in Arteta's first campaign as manager, which he actually didn't see the end of because he was sacked in April. Vincent Kompany, however, is still at Arsenal and took them to a 3rd place finish in the Premier League. But enough of that, it's time for the DFB Pokal. And of course, our best chance yet to complete the domestic double. And it was an Alphonso Davies run down the left-hand side and an inch-perfect cross from the byline that was tapped in by Yildiz, which gave us a first half lead. Second half, and it was a corner smashed in by Lenny Yoro to give us 2-goal advantage, but Leverkusen had a fair share of chances themselves, and on the 75th minute, they finally scored one to net from Karim Konate. But it was only in vain, as we go on to lift the DFB Pokal to go alongside our Bundesliga trophy, completing the domestic double challenge in the season number 4. The transfer budget for this summer is £18 million, but where does this team need improving? Well, I decided to bring in Cole Palmer, who instantly actually improves our attacking midfield slot that we have, because I feel like we don't score enough goals from that position, which he is definitely capable of doing. And he proved me right within a minute of his debut in the Super Cup as he smashed in from range. In fact, he scored 2 goals in a 5-1 win. The start of the season, however, has been so inconsistent, with 2 losses in our first 3 Bundesliga games, either side of a random 6-0 win against Leverkusen. It's time to promote our youngster who came through the academy that we mentioned earlier, as his growth and development has been strong. So let's see how much of an impact he has on our season, especially in the Champions League. Well, in the Bundesliga, we actually sit top once again, but it's much tighter than last season after our bad start, but our lads are dominating the average ratings. A final win in the league phase of the Champions League against Valencia sees us just slip into the top 8 of qualification and straight into the round of 16. And so far, it's so good in the DFB Pokal. A good win against our rival Schalke in the quarterfinals does see us draw against Bayern Munich in the semi-finals, however. And Bayern Munich's manager now is Didier Deschamps. But in the Champions League, our round of 16 opponents are Porto. And we had a great time in the first leg, played at home, scoring an early goal and going on to win 3-0. In the second leg, we lost 2-1, but we are through to the quarterfinals to play Porto's Portuguese rivals, Benfica. In the first leg away from home, it was 0-0 until the 92nd minute when Giovanni Reina smashed in a winner to give us the lead going into the second leg. And he's been an unsung hero, by the way. His development has been fantastic and he scored some crucial goals. It was a comfortable win at home too, so we go through 3-0 winners on aggregate in the semi-finals with Chelsea to play next. Meanwhile, in the semi-finals of the DFB Pokal, Harry Kane gives Bayern Munich the lead after just 3 minutes. Cole Palmer is still on form though, and he smashes in a beautiful equaliser. And before half-time, we even managed to take the lead through Yildiz. But the goal of the game sealed it for us as Santiago Jimenez nailed it in off of both posts. And we go into the final against Cologne, but it doesn't stop there. Because with just 3 games left of the Bundesliga, we have already been crowned champions. Meaning, not only are we on for a domestic double again, but the treble if we can win the Champions League too. And in the DFB Pokal final, I put my trust in youngster Florian Wernig, and that was a very smart decision because he scored the opening goal. He's also played a big part in the build-up to the second goal we picked up midway through the second half, scored by Cole Palmer. Cologne did have something to cheer about as they got themselves a goal with just 4 minutes remaining, but our defence held on strong and we complete back-to-back domestic doubles. Champions League then, and Chelsea have a strong side, but we get a bit of luck with the opening goal, deflecting and scoring. However, in the second half, Vlahovic slots in a penalty to equalise, and we travel to Stamford Bridge, needing to beat them in the second leg. But it was in London where we put in our best performance of the season, which seen us pepper the Chelsea goal with 25 shots in total, with 10 on target, scoring 2 goals before Reece James' deflected free kick found the net. But we even managed to score another before halftime through Gonzalo Ramos in the second leg, and Chelsea's legs were gone, and Moukoko put them to sword with the fourth. And that 4-1 win puts us in the Champions League final against PSG to be played at the Stade de France. So let's see if we can lift that Champions League with Borussia Dortmund. The team is almost at full strength. Kirku and Schlotterbeck are both missing through injury, but we are once again starting Wernig. PSG are lining up with a 4-3-3 with Gyökeres up front with Mbappe and Saka on the wings, and that's very scary. But maybe they look at our Dortmund side and are terrified about how the hell we're going to defend against our front five. Let's go win the Champions League. Well, within 5 minutes, Mbappe snatched onto a terrible pass out from the back. The ball is played to Gyökeres, we're 1-0 down. But just 2 minutes later, and Jan Kuto finds Wernig at the near post, and what a finish that is. This stayed 1-1 until extra time, where we find ourselves on the attack down the right-hand side with Kuto again, and his early cross is met by Yildiz, and we take the lead in the final. We then did very well to hold the ball and run the clock down into the corners, and even managed to get a final shot off to seal the game. But we held on either way, and we have done it. European champions. We have created a legacy and in 5 seasons managed to win the treble at Borussia Dortmund using a completely wild style of play and even using homegrown talents through the youth system. Patreon and channel members can download the save game file to try the tactic out themselves if you wish, and if you're wondering what to watch next, this video on screen is how my dad completed his own Glory Hunter challenge.